Welcome to the video series Exploring the Medieval Manuscript Book. In this episode, I talk about medieval manuscript bindings. They say you can judge a book by its cover, and in the case of medieval manuscripts, the covers, or bindings, are also part of their history. Between the Middle Ages and now, many manuscripts were rebound, sometimes even multiple times. This manuscript has a simple medieval parchment binding. This flap enclosed and protected the book inside. And although you can't see them, this binding is reinforced at the spine with metal rods. These gave the book added protection as it was carried about and used. In this second example, the wrap binding of the book, which dates to circa 1300, is made of leather. And as you can see, the user could have buttoned the cover to the book, ensuring that it did not splay open as it was being carried. Other medieval bindings, however, are more elaborate. Take this manuscript, for example. It has a 16th century binding, which was decorated to facilitate the display and use of the manuscript. It's really heavy, as the boards on either side are made out of wood. You can hear it. These boards have been covered in leather, which have been tooled. A diamond pattern has been impressed onto the leather. You can see that the boards have also been equipped with metal hardware, protecting here its corners, while 5 bosses have been added on each side of the book, here at the front and also at the back. These metal knobs protected the cover of the book when it was placed open on a lectern. This is a gradual, a manuscript containing music that was sung during church services, and so would have been prominently placed on display. The book was also equipped with these small metal feet. These protected the book while it was sitting on its lectern or shelf. Finally, these metal clasps were originally attached to leather straps. When closed, light pressure was applied to the pages. That helped to keep the parchment leaves flat. Sometimes medieval books were rebound, even during the Middle Ages. This manuscript was rebound in 1465 at the Dutch monastery of Egmond as part of a library reorganisation. Like the last example, this book also has some metal hardware, protecting it for display and use, such as these little feet on the bottom. It also has a fenestra, or window, added at the front, giving the title of the book, Historia Romanorum Versificae, a history of Roman verse. It's actually a copy of Lucan's Pharsalia. And as you can see, other labels have been added to the binding. These give us information about the author, as well as about the original placement of the book in its library. Many bindings of medieval manuscripts are modern. Take a look at this 18th century binding, which has been added to this medieval book of hours. When the binding was added, the pages of the book were actually trimmed to its size. Here, part of the penwork decoration at the top of the page was cut off. Protecting the book has led, in this case, to its damage. These bindings and rebindings reflect changing needs and aesthetic preferences of owners. Bindings offer us a glimpse of how a book was treated and used over time. Sometimes bindings hold secrets, scraps of parchment or parts of dismembered books which were repurposed to reinforce the cover. If we look closely at the spine of this book, we can see that it has small parchment strips at its heart. These were cut up from another manuscript and used to support the sewing of these paper quires or gatherings of leaves. Books were recycled. Even when their texts were deemed irrelevant, or when books made of parchment had given way to books made of paper, the materials from which they were made could be used for other purposes. In this case, the manuscript binding contains another hitchhiker from the past. The flyleaves of this book are made from a sheet which was used to draft various diagrams. The manuscript itself dates from the 9th century, but we know that this flyleaf sheet was attached to the rest of the book sometime in the 11th century, as this note copied here contains a reference to the content of the book and its author, and it's written in a script that's typical of the 11th century. So nothing was wasted by the medieval bookbinder. Even though this book now has a modern cardboard binding, it still contains other traces of the medieval binding. Here we can see an impression of the text of a fragment of yet another medieval manuscript, which was originally glued to this flyleaf. So bindings tell us multiple stories. Furthermore, bindings can preserve texts and parchment that otherwise wouldn't have survived. These discarded pieces, preserved by being repurposed and recycled, offer us avenues for new research. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Exploring the Medieval Manuscript Book. In the next episode, we'll talk about medieval composite volumes.